If you've never seen a movie that broke your heart, opened your eyes, and blew your mind, I've got over 10 hidden gem movie recommendations that will rock you emotionally, scramble your circuits, peel your cap back, and make your head spin. It's not included, but Interstellar served as inspiration for this list with equal parts emotionality, spectacle, and brain-breaking concepts. This list purposely avoids big movies you've seen and focuses on little forgotten gems that pack a punch. Thanks to Dream by Beam for sponsoring this video. So let's get started by exploring some forgotten bayous full of beasts. Then we'll get into movies with private eyes, moon pirates, monsters, ghosts, and a couple of flicks that successfully transform grief into a dazzling masterpiece. Not only is my bottom pick on this list unlike anything else featured on this list, Beast of the Southern Wild is unlike any other movie I've ever seen, which is a bold statement coming from somebody that watches as many movies as I do. There's literally nothing else like this. It's this bizarre fantasy that takes place kind of in the South, I guess. It's got a Southern vibe, yet the world that the characters exist in is this kind of fantastical, poverty-stricken type world. Now, while there's no real beasts in the story, they're kind of on the move. This little girl, who's the main focus of the story, is aware of these beasts that are coming. Now, the story is focused on her. She's a very young little actor in this movie, and not only did the direction and the writing and everything from this movie feel so unique, but her performance really helped elevate this thing. She would go on to be cast in a handful of other things, but getting to be in a movie like this is a really unique opportunity for a young actor like this. You know, the kids do not get a chance to do things like she did in this movie, and it's fairly tame, too, compared to some other things on this list. While not everything is just completely devastating or heartbreaking, all of these movies pack an emotional punch. The Beast of the Southern Wild definitely does that, while also having a bizarrely unique visual style. The next movie I want to talk about here fits on the list. Not only does it have just an emotional gut punch at one point in this movie, strong enough to earn its point on this list, that gut punch blew my mind the first time I saw it. I've showed this movie to other folks over the years, and it's had the same effect. Not only that, but the way that Too Late was filmed is every bit as interesting as the gut punch you get later in the film. John Hawkes, one of my favorite actors, plays a private detective in this story, and each scene in the movie is one long take. I believe they run 10 to 15 minutes per take. You can look for cuts in this movie. You are not going to find them. And even though this plays out just like a stage play because of the long takes, this movie's loaded with a bunch of bold choices. I mean, there's one character in particular. She does her entire scene bottomless. As raunchy as that sounds, it actually works for the scene. And at its heart, it's kind of a neo-noir detective story that has an unbelievable amount of heart. You do have to be patient throughout this flick, but not only is it emotionally devastating at times, it's also got a mind-blowing moment that is well worth the wait.
If I have a gun, I'm gonna kill him. I'm trying hard not to do that.
But next up, I've got a Space Odyssey, a big budget one that came out in theaters that was criminally underrated. And unlike Too Late, this movie's loaded with action, it's exciting, it's basically an adventure story that ultimately goes somewhere that has heavy emotional elements and a mind-blowing ending if you can tap into it. Yet I'll tell you now, it is difficult to understand what is happening in the Brad Pitt flick Ad Astra. And that's maybe why this movie didn't do very well. Now, as a Brad Pitt fan, I love almost everything the guy does. This movie is no exception. As I said, this movie features a lot of action. The opening sequence is incredible, but there's also a trip to the moon, which now has like bases and a spaceport that feels like a modern day airport, almost mundane. But you've got pirates on the moon, rabid space monkeys, like all kinds of wild stuff unfolds in this story, but Ad Astra actually slows down as you get towards the climax in kind of an unusual fashion, and all the action adventure stuff ultimately takes a back seat to what this movie is trying to say. A message that I think was lost on mass audiences, yet one that is well worth the strain to understand. And in a world of so many movies feeling the same, you've got a action-adventure space movie with Brad Pitt here that ultimately says something completely different and unique to this movie, something I've never seen another movie try to say exactly.
We have a job to do. Are you ready? I'm ready.
Next up, I've got multiple pairs of movies that go together quite well. They deal with somewhat similar themes, yet the way that they were created is wildly different. Before that, I want to talk about today's sponsor, Dream by Beam, which has been my secret to getting great sleep. And that's because Dream is a luxurious drink mixture loaded with the best sleep-promoting ingredients. It's a powder that you mix with a little bit of warm milk or water about 30 minutes to an hour before bed. I like to enjoy mine about halfway through my last movie of the day. And that's because Dream has been shown to help you fall asleep faster, stay asleep through the night, and most importantly, help you wake up feeling refreshed. There is no point in taking a sleep aid that's going to make you feel sleepy in the morning. And I enjoy Dream, even though I'm not someone who suffers from chronic sleep issues. At my age, there are a variety of things that can wake me up in the middle of the night. I find when that happens, it's often very difficult for me to get back to sleep, but on nights where I've taken Dream before bed, I slip right back to sleep, and again, most importantly, I wake up feeling fresh. Dream comes available in a CBD version and a non-CBD version. I take the non-CBD version. It's also available in a bunch of flavors, and I've tried a bunch of the flavors. They're all delicious, but the original flavor, this one, has like a cinnamon cocoa combination that's really delightful and, like I said, luxurious tasting. Dream is also gluten-free, dairy-free, with no GMOs, no added sugar, and no artificial flavors, making it easy to incorporate into your routine. So start getting the sleep you deserve and save up to 50% off Beam's biggest sale of the year, their early Black Friday sale. Just follow my link in the video description. You can also go to shopbeam.com/flick or use this QR code. Don't forget to use my code FLICK at checkout. Again, you're going to save up to 50% off. It's the biggest discount I've ever been able to offer with Beam, so I'm excited to share it with you here today, but I'm also excited to get back to the movies. Next up, we've got one based on a devastating true story. It's beautifully directed, and it's really the only foreign language movie on this list, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. This is actually the true story of one of the main editors of Elle magazine who suffered a massive stroke and then had to live with an almost totally paralyzed body. In fact, his left eye is the only thing he could move, and over time, a nurse is able to help coach him on how to speak. Now, he does not learn how to actually speak with his mouth. Rather, through a series of blinking this one eyelid, he's able to help call out letters on a sheet, and he's able to write about his experience being trapped inside his own body with the help of this nurse. And it's an incredible story. I'm actually getting goosebumps on my arm talking about it. I'm not joking. I don't think that's ever happened while I'm talking about movies here. I'm a little spooked by it, to be honest. The movie is incredible. It's been a long time since I've seen it. You want to talk about gut punch? This entire movie is a gut punch. And I think way more watchable than a similar film with Daniel Day-Lewis titled My Left Foot. I know drama nerds love that movie. To me, cinematically, this thing's a masterpiece.
Ne vous en faites pas. Le processus est très lent. Mais vous retrouverez la parole.
But another one that is just cinematically breathtaking from scene to scene is A Monster Calls.
I know everything about you, Connor O'Malley.
This, too, deals with a young boy being the main character. He does a great job, but you've actually got a monster in this movie, basically an imaginary friend who's voiced by Liam Neeson. But the interactions that this young boy is having with this big, booming monster are all incredible, like very touching stuff. The boy's mother is played by Felicity Jones, and she's dying of cancer in the movie. That's not even really a spoiler. They kind of give that to you pretty early, but the entire movie is about his struggles with that, and this went to a place I was not expecting. They kind of tease you along. The boy's kind of got this question he has to answer with this monster, and ultimately when he got there, again, I think I've already triggered it. I got goosebumps again. These movies are really incredible, but I will tell you, The last two, particularly A Monster Calls, are emotionally devastating, while also being fairly heartwarming. I want to tell you that too. These are not just downer flicks. They're incredible stuff.
He called for a monster.
But my next selection on this list, not only is it emotionally devastating, it's also just a beautiful small film, but it has one of the more emotionally devastating scenes in it, and it is filmed in such a simple way in A Ghost Story. Now, this is one of these smaller films from director David Lowery, but he's known for The Green Knight, The Old Man and the Gun, one of the last movies Robert Redford did, and some even smaller movies I really like Ain't Them Bodies Saints. I love his filmmaking style, but A Ghost Story hit me harder than anything else he's ever created, and it's more subtle than maybe anything else he's ever created, which is why it earned a spot on this list. It blew my mind by the end, ultimately what this movie is doing. I can't give any of that away, but it also features all sorts of very subtle little indie flick type things. One-shot scenes that go on maybe too long for most people's taste, but if you love discovering little art house films, this is an incredible one that could even make a great Halloween watch. Again, for people looking for those great little indie flick discoveries. If that's not what you're in the mood for, there's a very good chance A Ghost Story will bore you to death, but if it's a movie you can tap into, again, heartbreaking and mind-blowing, earning it a solid spot on this list. And another movie that I have similar things to say about, but it feels very different, and in fact, it's an animated movie titled Mary and Max. Now, this one's claymation in the style of Wallace and Gromit almost. It's from Australia, and one of the main characters is a young girl who lives in Melbourne, and she begins a pen-pal relationship with a man named Max who lives in New York City. And they're both outcasts, like she's not treated well by people, she feels really lonely, and so is he. And he's a grown man, which may sound like an inappropriate relationship, but I'm telling you, Mary and Max is a beautiful movie. And Max lives with Asperger's, yet this movie puts you in his shoes better than any other movie I can think of with characters like this. In fact, Mary and Max does an incredible job of stripping away all the typical trappings of a character like this and leaves you with what he's thinking and feeling at a very deep emotional level. Despite what it looks like, this movie is not for children. It deals with very heavy adult themes, including suicide. And I connected with these claymation characters in a way I don't know that I ever have with animated characters, or maybe even most live action characters. It's a deeply, deeply touching movie. While I am raving about it, it is still a black and white claymation movie that does deal with some sad and melancholy elements. It's not necessarily a movie that's going to make you feel good all the way through, but it will definitely make you feel some strong emotions, which is just effective filmmaking in my opinion. Now, speaking of effective filmmaking, I said I've got these in pairs. The next two are two of the best films I've ever seen that deal with loss, or that focus on loss and have a lot to say about it. The first one might surprise you. It's a Nicolas Cage flick from recent years, one of my favorites from recent years, Pig. Now, the thing about Pig is the plot kind of follows your typical Nicolas Cage revenge plot. He's kind of a hermit that lives out in the woods with a truffle pig. They collect truffles together to sell to the fancy restaurants in the city. One night, some people break in, beat him up, steal his pig. He's got to go into the city to track down his pig, almost like John Wick style. He's out for revenge for this pig. Yet this movie never, ever steps into John Wick territory. You think it's going to a couple of times, and it never does. And it's not like it doesn't go anywhere. Pig goes somewhere I was not expecting, and it does it in this incredible way. This one, I was not really prepared for ultimately what this movie was trying to say, and when I realized where they were headed, it blew my mind. This is not only one of the best Nicolas Cage performances in the last decade or more, it's easily like one of the best movies he's done in the past 10 years, and it's one of those movies I think is going to hold up. People are still going to be talking about 10, 20 years from now.
We don't get a lot of things to really care about. Where's my pig?
And then we've got what is probably my most favorite Darren Aronofsky film. Not only are his movies all just visually stunning, but they are wild, emotional roller coaster rides, typically. And even though Requiem for a Dream is certainly effective filmmaking, the one I picked for this particular list is The Fountain. Now, Hugh Jackman plays a doctor in this movie, specifically one researching cancer when his wife, played by Rachel Weisz, is afflicted with a fatal form of cancer. That element of the story alone is just emotionally devastating, but then Darren Aronofsky's style, the visual style of The Fountain, is absolutely breathtaking. It is among one of the more beautiful movies ever made, in my opinion, yet it deals with the past, the present, and the future in a way that's almost impossible to wrap your head around by the time the credits roll. Yet it ultimately all makes sense. There is an amazing score by Clint Mansell for this movie. Like, it's one of my all-time favorite, like, raw, emotional scores. This thing is an incredible movie. If your eyes aren't at least watering in this thing, I don't know what's wrong with you, but this thing killed me. Now we're on to my top two picks. Two movies that literally I thought were my top two selections. They also have a lot in common with each other thematically and would make an incredible double feature. If you don't have the emotional stamina for it, watch these two close together. They work together better than you could possibly imagine. One is a Japanese anime film titled Perfect Blue. The other, the David Lynch classic Mulholland Drive. I don't care if you think you don't like anime, if you're still watching this video, if you're still looking for movies that fit with this theme that you've never seen, Perfect Blue is a masterpiece. And it's just a drama film with some supernatural elements, but there's not a lot of action or science fiction or fantasy stuff, the things you might associate with anime. None of that's in here. It is just an incredible, warped, mind-blowing film. Now, there are some upsetting elements. There's a theme of sexual assault that honestly works incredibly well for this film, or rather, the way that they depict it and everything that happens after it, absolutely mind-blowing in Perfect Blue, but that's not what this movie's ultimately about. I literally cannot say much more, but this thing is like a Christopher Nolan level anime movie in terms of how mind-blowing some of the elements are. And it's a fairly short watch. I will say it's among the more disturbing movies on this list, but also emotionally, it's all over the place while also being effective and a truly mind-blowing movie. And then I gotta say, I think Mulholland Drive is my favorite David Lynch film. He is a director I've not only enjoyed over the years, but I get more and more out of his filmmaking the more I'm exposed to it. It's such a bizarre style. Everything he does is totally unique to him and his voice. And Mulholland Drive, I think, brings all the stuff that he's so good at all under one movie. I'll also be honest, I like the fact that a lot of people are weirded out by this movie and don't get it. I won't even say I fully get this movie. That would be ridiculous of me to say, because I don't know that anybody really fully understands Mulholland Drive, but there is a lot to grab onto with this movie, and if you do, there are a lot of moments that are truly mind-blowing for different reasons. Yes, there are some big twists and turns, but even little scenes like this audition scene, they feature twists in them. David Lynch does an amazing job of setting up some sort of expectation, puts you in a situation you've seen on film before, and then literally pulls the rug out from under you and does something completely different. Mulholland Drive is one of the weirdest movies ever made, yet that is why my mind is so blown by David Lynch all the time. It's so bizarre, it seems like total nonsense, yet there is a point. He's taking you somewhere, he's making you feel things with purpose. Again, expert filmmaking. Hopefully you found something good to watch off of this list, maybe something you've never seen before. If so, leave me a like. If you want future recommendations, make sure you've clicked that subscribe button. Thanks to Beam for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check out their link in the video description, but I'll keep making these videos as long as y'all keep watching them. Thanks for watching this very special episode, and you will see me on the next one.